For the first time since the Arctic blast, the city without water is finally seeing improvements. A look at what's being done in a few minutes. And the Grammy goes to, well, a little later, a recap of music's biggest night and the surprises that came with it. And the sun always shines after rainy days. Meteorologist Nathan Scott is forecasting your Monday and week to come. But good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on this Monday. I'm Jurnee Taylor. And before we check in with meteorologist Nathan Scott on what this week will bring, let's get a quick look at your afternoon commute. Well, it's lunchtime for many, and the roads are mostly clear around the metro area. Even with the sun out, though, some roads are still a bit wet from the rain over the weekend. So if you have to get out for an appointment to pick up students after school, or just take your time and buckle up. And if you also need to fill up your tank before getting out today, you can expect to pay a little more for gas this week. The average price for regular fuel sits at about $2.76. That's roughly a 9-cent difference than prices reported last week. And now to the man with the plan, meteorologist Nathan Scott. Happy Monday to you. What can you share with us on this afternoon?
Happy Monday, Jurnee. First of all, I got to point out the lilac, love it. Certainly a little pop of spring in the fashion statement for this morning or this afternoon, and that's because we're going to see temperatures warmer than what we have been seeing over the past couple days. That sunshine, it feels good, right? Just really boost your self-esteem, boost your mood. Temperature almost 60 degrees at Little Rock, already 60 in Hot Springs. Wall-to-wall sunshine all across the natural state. And we take a look at the 24-hour temperature difference. It's about 5 to as much as 9 degrees warmer, but it's all about that sun. That makes a huge difference this time of year. A little bit on the breezy side. Those winds are kicking in from the north-northeast about 10 to 15 miles per hour, but temperatures for many areas should be able to climb up into the low 60s, probably mid-60s into Queen and Texarkana, upper 50s for you folks in Searcy, Batesville, and over towards Jonesboro. Enjoy the sunshine. It'll stick around for the next day or so. Wednesday, we'll see more clouds, and then rain does return to the forecast as we go into Thursday, Friday, and also into the weekend. I'll have more on that potential coming up.
All right, Nathan, thank you. Well, some things to know as we kickstart your week. Today is the last day to register to vote for the Arkansas primaries. A reminder for folks that you cannot register online here in Arkansas. However, there's still time to do so in person at places such as your local county clerk's office, public libraries, and even the revenue office. If you're choosing to register by mail, it needs to be postmarked today in order to be received. Early voting begins on February 20th. So if you plan on heading to the polls, you'll need to be prepared.
Voting in person, you're still required to show an approved photo ID. We'll obviously offer you a provisional ballot if you don't have that ID. So for voting in person, there's not been a lot of rule changes, but there are some rule changes in regards to registering to vote and then for absentee voting.
Now, to check your registration status or to have a look at all things elections related, just take a trip over to the Secretary of State's website. That's sos.arkansas.gov. And residents in Helena, West Helena are starting their week with some good news. After 3 weeks of battling through water issues, a boil water advisory has now been lifted. City officials say at least 95% of homes and businesses will now have adequate water pressure. Repairs are still ongoing in those remaining homes. The improvements come following the removal of the head of the water department just last week. And the capital city now has a new location for its recycling station. The Green Station's former site was located at Canis Road. The site initially closed back in November of 2022. It has now officially reopened on Thayer Street and Wright Avenue. Residents can dispose of items such as old electronics, hazardous waste, plastic, and glass. It was quite the sight in West Memphis on Saturday as protesters took to the streets in an effort to voice their stance over the ongoing war overseas. The group known as Memphis Voices for Palestine took over the I-40 bridge for over an hour. Traffic was forced to come to a halt during protests. More than a dozen police officials stepped in to address those involved. Now, the governor took to social media to address the incident. In a statement, Sanders states, quote, You have a right to free speech, but if you break the law and endanger others, you will go to jail. Arkansas stands with Israel. End quote. Now, it was a busy weekend for Governor Sanders as she joined alongside a handful of Republican governors for a trip to Eagle Pass, Texas. The trip made headlines across the country, and it comes after the Supreme Court ruled that federal agents could remove wire barriers put in place by the Texas National Guard. Governor Sanders has since reassured that she is committed to playing an active role in monitoring the activity at the Texas-Mexico border.
Arkansas sent National Guard troops here last year, and I can commit today that we'll continue to do that over the course of this year as much as we can and as much as is needed until the federal government and Joe Biden step up and do their jobs.
The governor places blame on President Joe Biden for not addressing the issue head on. Democratic leaders, however, say previous border restrictions set in place by Donald Trump were stopped by the courts. A bipartisan Senate agreement with the White House to get a grip on the southern border faces stiff opposition from conservatives in the House. The bill will give the president sweeping authority to clamp down on unlawful boarding crossings. CBS's Natalie Brand is on Capitol Hill.
We're getting a look at what's in the $118 billion national security package unveiled Sunday.
These are powerful new tools that allow any administration, this one and future administrations, to actually gain control of the border.
The deal took months of negotiations. It would give the administration new emergency authority to shut down asylum processing between ports of entry, allowing immediate deportation before asylum is requested. That would happen when migrant encounters reach a daily average of 5,000 over a week. It also ends catch and release policies and speeds up the processing of asylum cases.
We're now mandating that the government actually shut down the border if those numbers get to 5,000 a day. But we're permitting the government to actually shut down the border when it only gets to 4,000 approaches a day.
The bill also includes $60 billion in aid to Ukraine, another $14 billion for Israel, plus humanitarian assistance and other support. If enacted, the bipartisan compromise would be the first major update to the nation's immigration system in more than 3 decades. Muzaffar Shishti, a senior fellow with the Migration Policy Institute, says election year politics could complicate the bill's passage.
The extreme right and the extreme left may actually be responsible for the demise of anything that happens here.
Former President Trump has already come out against the bill, and House Speaker Mike Johnson said it's dead on arrival in the House.
He's not calling the shots. I am calling the shots for the House. That's our responsibility.
A test vote in the Senate is expected as early as Wednesday. Natalie Brind, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
And now for a THV 11 update. In the ongoing feud between the state and the Board of Corrections, Attorney General Tim Griffin is now looking to prevent Interim Secretary Eddie Joe Williams from taking office. Just one day after Williams was asked to fill in as Interim Secretary, he received a letter by the Attorney General asking that he decline that position. Griffin says that according to law, the board has, quote, no such authority, end quote, to make such decision. He is now threatening to take legal action if Williams fails to correspond. And yet again, the state of Arkansas is projected to have a generous amount of money left over once the 2024 fiscal year comes to an end. The surplus is forecasted to be around $240 million. The Department of Finance and Administration says the influx in cash is due to recent tax cuts.
Those tax cuts mean hundreds of millions of dollars stay with Arkansans. That's money the state is not going to collect, which is great. The way that Arkansans will see this is they'll see larger tax returns.
The 2024 fiscal year will end this June, which means there's still time for the surplus amount to change. Here to buy a new TV, aside from Black Friday. Coming up, tips from experts on how to pick the right one for the big game. Nathan?
And we're kicking off the new work week with lots of sunshine. You certainly need the sunglasses out there today. Also tomorrow morning's ahead. They're going to be on the chilly side tomorrow morning, also Wednesday morning. But then you see a warm up going into the weekend. That's because it'll feature more clouds and also the chance of showers and storms. More on that forecast coming up.